I think in particular with any kind of new technology, the challenge or the implementation issues have to do with the mindset change on the ground. Just recently, about a month back, we recently won the InnovPlus challenge. Actually, it's a technology challenge set by the Singapore government, and we were one of the 2 teams that won. So what was interesting was the people on the ground actually accepted the technology, but a lot of them were also asking questions, how does this apply to adult education in Singapore and globally? There's a lot of potential, but people don't quite know how eventually it will be implemented, what are the implications. So this is where we track out the entire journey for ourselves, where we design for ourselves as well as also for our learners, the kind of learning experience that they will encounter. So design thinking is one aspect we need to adopt. Specifically from the recipient's point of view, actually they will have to be open to accept this kind of technology. Looking for partners on the ground will be very, very critical. If you talk about different countries, especially countries whereby English is not the primary language, then I think that's also an issue there where we have to maybe engage in translation and some aspects of that. Although Kinetic Coach and Chatbot, technically speaking, can be quite language agnostic, meaning that especially Kinetic Coach, you don't need that language. You can speak in whatever language and then you record as such. Some of the key takeaways for me in this conference have been, I think, multiple. I just mentioned a couple. I think firstly is the whole idea of government funding people to learn through work. Okay, what do I mean by that, right? Because I think some of the speakers actually talked about in the past is learning to work, and then going forward is working to learn. And potentially what would be interesting is that this idea of instead of funding people by getting them to attend courses, you technically can fund people by making them complete projects. You can basically put up projects on the portal, a government portal, whatever it is, and say this project comes with X dollars, that project comes with X dollars. I'm prepared to fund 500 people to take and do this project. And the only criterion is that you don't know anything about this project and this entire area of work. And that's a very strange criterion. But the purpose is very different because if the people or the team of people can complete those projects, technically speaking, they will have learned something. And the fact that they learn something to complete a project drives, number one, self-empowerment. They actually learn how to acquire those skill sets themselves and actually perform the skill sets as well as then eventually completing the deliverable. And as such, they actually earn that token. So the current model is that the government funds the training providers, and that subsidy can be quite high, especially in Singapore. And the learners go through those courses and they take an assessment. But how much of those assessments are eventually applicable in the workplace, we don't know. But if you say getting them to complete a deliverable, potentially those deliverables, let's say for example, if the person is able to do some kind of coding or able to do some kind of website design, or potentially those deliverables can be utilized and it goes into the portfolio. I think that's also very critical. And essentially, even if you look at the quantum, right, it may not be a lot because if you look hard at the subsidies that the governments are putting in, it could be exactly the same amount in terms of what government subsidizes for people to go through those courses and in terms of the quantum that governments actually put in to say, you complete this particular project, we pay you this amount. So it's a very different model, but I think it will eventually drive self-learning, self-empowerment, moving people into a space where they then create their own jobs.